Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cultural Resets Artist Interview Series. This is Nick Lee and Shay Ervin up here. And we're here with a super dope artist. He's the music director, music programmer, the producer for John Legend and Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa and J. Cole. Ton of great names in music. Thank you so much for coming aboard, Eugene ManMan Roberts.
Hello, everybody. Hey. Hello, all you people out there.
Hello, hi.
Yes, hello. So we just want to get things kicked off with this question. So where did you start your creative journey? How did you decide to become a music engineer, producer, director, all of this?
So I started as a teenager, a young teenager, as a drummer, growing up playing in church. And as we know, a lot of people tend to lean towards like the rhythm instruments in church, whether it's tambourine, drums, or those different things. And a specific church I was playing at, the organist keyboard player, he worked at the airport, and he would always be late for the evening service. So it was like, all right, it was a lot of drummers, and I was like, man, I should start learning like songs on piano, like at least to try to cover and those type of things. So I just kind of started learning songs, and from that I just grew like a likeness of just the overall soundscape of songs, because you can listen to a song, you have bass, you have drums, you have guitar, you have vocals, but then you have a lot of other sounds. You have the strings, you have the synth sounds, you have like, effects, you have these different things. And I always just started going into making sure the whole song sound like what it sounded like on the record. And from that point, I didn't even know that was called a music director at the time. It would just be like, hey, you play that while I play this, and you don't play for 8 bars, and then I'll play, and then we play. So, fast forward to now, we know that's called a music director. But growing up in that realm of music and that scene, we didn't know that's what it was called. So as that started to happen, I started to get gigs as a keyboard player and like subbing for other people. And I just kind of started growing into it that way. And then being a technical person, like I always would take things apart and figure out how it worked and like all these different things. So I got my first touring experience was with John Legend in 2005 on the Get Lifted tour. I was the drum tech and stage manager, and literally all I did was set things up. And I was really excited because it was like I was getting paid a lot of money, which I found out today it wasn't a lot of money, but like I thought it was a lot of money to set up the stage and do cool things. And from that, I met different people, and it was like, oh, so you actually play. And then I was on tour with John as a stage manager and drum tech, and then I met a couple other people that knew like the Teddy Rileys and different people, and they're like, man, you got to meet Teddy Riley. Like he would love a brain like yours. So I met Teddy, and I went out with Teddy for a couple months as his tech, setting up his talk box and vocoder, and I like learned all his ins and outs. And then he found out I played. So then I started playing with Guy in Blackstreet. And I was about 19, turning 20 at that time. Once I got done that, and then my friend Adam Blackstone, he's a music director. He hit me like, hey, we're about to go out with Kanye. And this was the Glow in the Dark tour for the graduation album. He's like, yo, we need somebody to play Talkbox. Kanye really wants somebody on Talkbox and vocoder. And he's like, yo, you just got done with Teddy. I know you can kill it. So that's how I started playing with Kanye. Then John came to a show and saw the Kanye show at NERD and was like, man, we should get a new drummer and a new band for my stuff. And he was like, we talked about who would be the music director, and he was saying a couple people was in his ear about me. So at that point, John gave me the opportunity to be the music director. So I've been John's music director since 2008. And I started with him in like 2005 as a stage manager type thing. So from that, my whole path has been like artist to artist or like label to label calling me. So from that, I started working with the J. Cole's because I had already did Kanye, I've done John Legend, I've done Teddy Riley. So it looks great when you start building your resume that type of way.
Mhm.
And then like Snoop came and saw John open for Sade on a tour, and Snoop called John like, yo, I need to use your music director, man. He's dope. So that's how I got the Snoop gig, and the Snoop and Wiz did a tour together. We used one band. So Wiz is like, dang, I need you to put my band together. So then I go and do Wiz Khalifa and so on and so forth. And that's really just kind of how the cards fall for me. Just as far as labels and artists just seeing my work, like, hey man, wow, you did a great job with that. Can you do this? So then comes the Cardi B's, comes the, like in the more recent, like you'll see it. I don't know when this airs, but by then, like the Tiny Desk for like Fat Joe, I just did Fat Joe last week. I've done Chromeo. We have a live album coming out. I've done Sweetie in the recent. So it's just like it just kind of like it's just a trickle down effect for me.
Man, you work with everybody. How did you wait? Hold on, because so you started off in church. I think that's something really important because
Yeah. I mean, as honest, I'm gonna be totally honest. If you look at, the Ushers, the J. Coles, the Drakes, the Wiz Khalifas, the Justin Timberlakes. You look at anybody, like 80% of their bands are structured around Philly musicians, first of all, and then second of all, half of us all grew up in church.
That makes sense to me because like I grew up in church myself and like everybody was just like everybody was musically gifted there. Like I remember having like in my church like people having tryouts to like for like the percussion instruments, like for the drums, right? Like whole auditions for that. So I guess my question is, what was it like taking that jump from church to that first like big time gig?
I don't think it was really any difference outside the factor that in the real world, you strive to have perfection and you try to lock into a show. Like a John Legend, we're really, really structured.
Mm-hmm.
And in church, you're taught to think on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about musicians that really have to, and it's nothing against it. Can a lot of us read? Yes. Did a lot of us go to school? Some yes, some no. But the difference is when it's time to say, let's change this on the spot, 9 times out of 10, the guys that grew up in church can think on the fly rather than hold on. I need 5 minutes to digest what this change is, So it's just a thought process, I think, honestly.
Well, it's almost like a part of yourself is able to just digest what's happening in that moment and go with it because you've been so flexible. And I feel like your skills definitely speak for themselves. Your path through the music industry and up in the music industry seems to spread from skill and people noticing your skill and word of mouth, which I feel like word of mouth is also something that's kind of effective or comes, like from people in church. Like everybody knows everybody. And it's like, hey, you need somebody who plays the keyboard? We've got somebody. Like I know somebody.
But I think bigger than the talent, I think I've been able to work successfully because of my personality and transparency of what I feel and who I am. I think that works more than the musical side of it, to be totally honest. I think the music side, like, they kind of go hand in hand. If you're not a good person, you don't have a good heart and you don't lead with love, like I don't think anything really pans out for you, to be totally honest. Like you can be on this like incline and you could do some cool things, but like it may not last long, So when you look at the trajectory of someone's career, they can work with 42 artists, but if you only did 2 shows with them, it really doesn't hold any weight. But if you've worked with an artist for 16 years, like a John Legend, I worked with John before he, Ordinary People was 2004, so now you're talking about us gearing up for a tour in a few months and I'm still in my position, like that type of thing holds a lot more weight than just working with, like I said, a bunch of different random artists. And that goes towards you growing as a person with a person's career. That grows how you deal with business, how you deal with money, how you deal with people, because we're not dealing with 10 people, we're dealing with 50 people on our staff, so it's just, you just grow as a person. And when you grow, you learn how to communicate better, you learn how to be more responsible, you learn how to accept people how they are and figure out, like I said, how to communicate, because I can't talk to the background singers how I talk to the drummer. I can't talk to the drummer how I talk to the lighting guy. So at that point, like, you have to be held accountable for the emotions and the morale of everything that's going on with you and your team.
The relationship you must have formed with John over the years probably makes it so that your level of communication and just general understanding of each other's like musical wants and creative vision. I mean, it must be so much easier to work with somebody once you've been with them for some time. Or do you feel like you're able, I mean, like, it sounds like you're also able to adjust really quickly, so you could work with any artist anytime.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say. It's, working with John and artists I've been working with for years, that helped me mold and shape how I kind of operate. And Like if this works here, it has to work here because I'm building a structure. So me, when I get hired, I like to come in and I build the infrastructure of how that artist operates. So to this day, like J. Cole operates on the infrastructure I built in 2010. One of my best friends is now the music director for J. Cole after I left. And this has been 10, 11 years now, you know? So when you build these structures and it works, why not adapt it? Why not?
And it's not like that's something that you went to school to learn. Like you said, like you were doing that in church. You just didn't know what the name of it was.
Exactly.
I feel like that's the truth with like a lot of like different musicians in church too. Like I've seen so many talented people like in that environment, right? And it's like they don't have like those titles, they don't have those names or anything like that. They're just like the minister of music, or they're a part of the music ministry or something like that. But like they really do have all of those skills, all those
Yeah.
skill sets
I
that
think the difference in it though is how you walk in that title is important, because a lot of times I work and a lot of people find out at the end of the day, like, you didn't say you were in charge. Like, am I supposed to act that way? Like, you know what I'm saying? Am I supposed to act entitled because I have this position? Like you have to, again, it has to be a relaxed environment, because when it's a relaxed environment, you have people that can communicate and say like, yo, bro, honestly, I don't feel good today, man. Like, you know, and they're honest with what's going on, and those type of things matter. Like, you know, I check with the artist before the show. I feel like the artist is a little tired, they're a little under the weather. I'm gonna tell my band, I'm gonna go to the band, say, yo, listen, they not feeling too well today. We gotta give an extra 10% because we gotta give them that energy that they're missing. We gotta make them feel like we got their back, you know, that type of thing.
right.
So it's just like I said, it's just watching the overall landscape of what you're doing.
I really appreciate that, because those like "Are you okay?" questions are so critical. It's like for mental health, so critical to just check in and have that relationship with your band to be like, are you doing okay? And when there is a problem, they can talk to you openly about it, because you know, looking back, reflecting on mental health, it's kind of been like suppressed, you know, and now that you're able to talk about it, it almost makes it easier to address. And I'm sure that there is difficulty with like emotions when you're on the
Well, I mean, the reality of it is, you know, you're away from your family, you're away from your friends. Like, we're spending a lot of time together as a band, as a unit, as a traveling touring party. So when we're overseas, you know, for 2 months, and you know your uncle passed away, you can't really go home technically, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we got to be there for each other. You know, we miss our kids, we miss our families, we miss our dog, we miss birthdays, we miss weddings, we miss a lot of different things. And you know, by the end of the day, we can't let the fans see or feel that. Like, we have to still go out there and do our job. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that. You know, they just want to pay their ticket and see a great show. You know, so by the end of the day, we have to perform that way as well. Like, you know, I mean, you know, some of these artists are getting paid 50, 60, 70, 80, $1 million a show. You know what I'm saying? So these fans really can care less what's going on in your personal life.
But like, do you feel like, you know, throughout your experience working with these different teams, like, do you feel like they would have benefited from having like some sort of mental health professional on staff to help talk them through that? Do you feel like a lot of the weight fell on your
I think,
shoulder?
to be totally honest, yes. To be totally honest, I think so. And a good friend of mine, his name is Paul Clemson. Him and his wife Courtney Clemson, they started a mental health advocacy program for roadies and people that tour, and it's called the Clinic. And I'll shoot you guys that information. And they built like a safe house in like out in like Detroit in the Michigan area, and they you know, that's all they focus on. They focus on mental health awareness and different things like that. So now when the touring world opens back up, you know, they can jump on a Zoom meeting and talk to their people and do this whole thing, because it's really important. And they started it prior to COVID, but you know, now that the world is opening back up, like, I think it's going to be a lot of like post mental things like
Yeah.
jumping back into the world, because a lot of us haven't spent, you know, much time with our families over the years. You know what I'm saying?
social
Yeah.
anxiety.
This
I
is
don't even
like,
think I don't even think it's a social anxiety because we've been around people all our lives. I think it's the being able to detach from home after being home for a year. Like it's some people that literally haven't been home more than 30 days in a row ever in like 10 years.
Mm.
So imagine now you get ready to go on a 4-month tour and
So
you've been home every day.
is this you? Is this the experience you're having?
I mean, honestly, yes. I mean, well, I'm more I'm more flexible about it because I'm just really in control of how I feel a lot of the times.
Mhm.
But a lot of people aren't. They don't know how to feel. They don't know how to express how they feel. And when you're in a position of leadership, you have to operate a different way than just being a hired gun. So when you're a hired gun and you don't really have anything to do but your job and to be cool with everybody else on the road, you may go to your room and you feel sad. You may go to your room and different things, you can't communicate with certain people. But I'm literally working around the clock, like
Mhm.
throughout the whole pandemic. I worked literally through the whole thing, like even from home,
Mhm.
like even with John, like we did so many private events, so many pre-taped events, so many. I mean, we did a lot. Like I did a lot with literally a lot of different artists, like just programming and arranging and getting my friends to record from their studios and them sending me their parts and putting it all together and like those different type of things, and it just happens,
So nothing really like changed for you throughout the pandemic. Like you were still grinding, you were still going really, really hard. You still had to do everything that you were doing that would happen on tour, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I moved, I bought a house, I built a studio. Like I did a lot in the pandemic, and
I
still
mean,
kind of kept it moving.
Mhm.
I got a couple new accounts, a lot of new artists that are just like, hey, we need you to come in. I need you, like, you come highly recommended. Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's like, they know I'm going to deliver.
hmm. I feel like you are really, what really impresses me about you, man, it's not even just like the amount of skill and the amount of virtuosity that you put in your work. It's like just the fact that you're like a case study in good leadership. Like there are so many people out here, like just in terms of like bosses, like and even in the corporate space,
Yeah.
that like could manage their team so much better if they just employed some of the tactics that you employed. Like, I mean, I can speak from personal experience too. Like, if I had certain managers where I was working, for example, who like, really took a moment of their time to say like, hey, how are you feeling? Or hey, like, what's up with this? Or like, hey, this dude over here, like, he is a little sad today, so you're gonna have to bump up your activity or whatever. Like, that would have really, I know for me, like, made me feel much better working in certain environments that I've worked in for
But
sure.
but see that comes into play with I wasn't always in this position. So it was that thing of how I think I should have been treated, you know.
Mhm.
So again, like I said, I started when I was 19 in this. I went on my first trip to Africa, like you know what I'm saying, like at 19 going on 20. I bought everything at the African marketplace because I never thought I would go out of the country again. So it's like this mental of like being a little church kid coming from South Philly. Like none of my family has done this for a living. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I didn't really have an infrastructure to follow. So I built it, you know and at that point, like I said, when you lead with love and and you're a good person and you care about people, you figure out how do you help people outside of just the music. A lot of my friends, when I accept certain gigs, they may not be able to pay my rate, but I'll take a lower rate to hire 10 of my friends.
Mm.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So now we're talking about legacy and building legacy. Like I said earlier, I had to, John Legend is my primary artist. So my business structure with that, like, I'm never going to miss anything. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
when it's like I go do the Snoops, I do the J. Cole's, I do these different things, I go out there as long as I can. And I'm very transparent with these artists and say, hey, listen, this is my primary artist. So sometimes I will miss things because I have to go do things with John. So that infrastructure I set up, and again back to the word legacy. Now, when you say a J. Cole, and my friend Ervin Washington is the keyboard player and music director, you say, how did you start working with J. Cole? Like now it's like it's a part of my legacy because I
Mhm.
started. So it's just that whole thing and caring about my friends and people that I grew up with, and like when I get gigs, it's like, hey, I want to bring in the sound. I want to bring front of house in. I want to bring in the monitor engineer. I want to bring in 2 techs. I want to bring in a 5-piece band, and I want to bring in a road man. That's 10 people. You know what I'm saying? So I build the infrastructure to bring in my team. And it might not be the same team every tour. It might be, all right, y'all stay over here. I'm gonna put a whole nother team over here, and I'm gonna put a whole nother team over here, you know, and you just kind of just keep making the ball roll.
You're creating opportunities for
I
other
mean,
artists.
the reality of it is like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. Why not? I can't do it all. Legacy is about spreading it to other people. Like, you know what I'm saying? By the end of the day, you die today or tomorrow and you kept everything to yourself, you have nothing.
On the topic of legacy, I just wanted to bring up, you know, as far as our interviews go, we've mostly talked to single acts, lead singers. You are the first producer we've been able to sit down with. And I think it's very interesting how, I mean, artists' legacy is normally what they create. You know, it's the music that they leave behind, the message in the music, that's their legacy. But I think that, you know, your legacy, even though it won't be on, you know, posters and billboards, is so impactful as well, because it's the structure from within the music industry that you're having an impact on.
Yeah, I mean, even when you talk about artists and them creating music, you know, I think as an artist, the greatest thing you can do is sow into other artists. You know what I'm saying? Like feature on songs. Like, you know, that's why like a Snoop Dogg will forever be one of my favorite artists to ever have worked with, because of his personality, who he is. He's a giver. You know, he probably has the most amount of features with other artists as it's possible. Him, Lil Wayne, a few others, and it's not a money thing. It's a, you know, it's a cosign. You know, and a lot of people don't understand, as musicians, as creatives, as producers, we have credit, right? So either you can have good credit, which means a lot of people know your work ethic, they know your sound, they know what you've done. Then you can have bad credit, meaning you messed up every opportunity people presented you with. And then you have no credit, which means you need a cosign. You see what I'm saying? So now you have an artist that features on your song that gives you the cosign, or you have a person that jumps on a beat with you and help you produce a beat to get it placed, because that's your cosign. You know what I'm saying?
And that's like that helping hand, that outreaching hand that is like
exactly. So at that point, you're using your solidified credit to help someone else be better.
And that changes whole careers too. Like one example that I'm thinking of is like Beyonce and Meg The Stallion. Like how Beyonce like hopped on Savage. Like Savage was already doing like really, really well, but like I feel like that took it to a whole nother level when Beyonce kind of co-signed this other girl from Houston.
Yeah, I mean, but see, I think that's cool, but I think what's cooler than that is when an artist takes someone that's literally unsigned and they put them on a song.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like Tyler the Creator, because I know that Tyler the Creator, like he actually took a step back in his role of like being the star of his songs and his production. Like he actually took a step back and kind of like gave the spotlight to somebody else, but had his name on it so that it still got the attention.
Yeah, exact prime example. You know what I mean? And at that point, you know, it's about not having a fear of people surpassing you. It's just like, hey, we're all in this together. When you have that fear of someone surpassing you, like you're literally putting a threshold on how you help people and the trajectory of which you think their career should be. And it's just like, just do it out of love. If you do it out of love and they become a millionaire, cool. It is what it is.
Like
how do you feel about your trajectory and your experience in the music industry and how you've come up?
I feel like personally, I feel like I'm just getting started, honestly. You know, a lot of the things I do outside of music, like, you know, I deal with Roland, the keyboard company. I've been with them for a very long time. I help develop and product test a lot of different products, and you know, I'm more like a brand strategist with other companies. I'm working with a virtual reality company right now, which we'll be doing concerts in 360. We'll be able to do this in person, like in a virtual room as avatars that look like us. And, you know, so I'm like kind of all over the place. Yeah, like I always think like how, like music, honestly, you can't get rich making music sometimes, to be totally honest. It's like all your favorite artists are rich because of endorsements and, you know, product placements and cool things like that. It's never the music. You don't get paid for streaming. You don't get paid for, so you got to figure out how to make money outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that early, being a tech, setting up things, and I'm looking at the bills from SIR, like, man, we paid $10,000 to rent all of this stuff. If I own this, I can get that $10,000. So I started making sure I owned my own gear and doing these deals with these companies to own my own equipment. I literally own like 40 keyboards. You know what I'm saying? Like, so any tours that go out, I'm gonna rent them my stuff. You know what I'm saying? I got drum kits, I got everything. So like, when somebody, I'm not just getting my salary on tour. I'm gonna get the backline budget. I'm gonna get as much of the money as I can that's on the table because they have to spend it. Right. So it's just like learning the business and not just saying, this is my lane, I'm gonna take my lane and just run in it. Like, nah, I want all the lanes.
Right.
You driving on the highway. You driving on the highway, you ain't driving in the same lane the whole trip. You switching lanes. And you switching lanes because it's a reason. It's because you're moving faster. You know what I'm saying? Like you're clearing, you're getting in a different path to move, not to jump in a lane to get stuck behind a car. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think there's also something to be said to the fact that you learned this like working in tech behind the scenes too. Like you got a chance to like kind of see the inside of the industry, and then you said, wow, here's different ways that I can change the way that I'm doing things too. I just think that's interesting, and I wanted to make a note of it too, because like sometimes people that are watching our broadcast, like they're aspiring creatives themselves, and they're like, hey, I just want to be a singer, I don't want to do some of these other things, like I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But the truth of the matter is, and that's what you're telling us, is that like you really want to the best path to success is to kind of do all the things and learn how to do as much as you can.
I'll make it really simple.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing you can do is create yourself to be a necessity in every scenario you're in. You want to be missed. That's how you get paid.
And needed. And I feel like you are such an essential part. Like, even if the star of the show is there, the show will not go on without you. You're the one that's connecting all of the wires and making it actually happen. And I think that.
Well, I mean, so what happens is now, like I started doing that. Now, you won't see me until it's almost time to play because someone does that, So when you get to bigger productions, we got a 20-person team that sets up, like I don't see my keyboards and computers or anything on a show until it's time to play. Like someone does that. You know what I'm saying? One person literally sets up the drums.
But that used to be you.
Exactly. So now because I used to do that, I know how to respect and treat those people, which makes our whole team work better because I'm not a person that I don't respect those positions. And it's like, oh, yo, is my stuff not ready? It's like, I know it's not ready because we're in another country and they had a power issue. So it's like being a little more understanding because I know what's going on rather than someone having to teach me or tell me. Like I already know. Like I can walk outside, I can walk out to the stage and see like what's going on. And then I can just go back to the band and be like, yo, I think they're gonna need another 30 minutes. Like go to catering and get some food or whatever, go have a drink or do whatever you want to do because I know they're not ready,
You have the perspective.
Yeah.
Wow. That's dope. So to that end too, I wanted to ask a little bit about like some upcoming projects that you're working on as well. Because I mean, well, one, you already mentioned the VR thing. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about that. If you can tell us that.
It's a virtual reality company called Iora, and basically it's just giving the experience of a fan and concert goer and just entrepreneurs, business people, it's literally like just life-changing. It's because it's just virtual reality. Imagine going to a concert, you put these VR goggles on and you're in a concert and you can look around and see the whole arena, like your friend is right there next to you. You can buy virtual merchandise, t-shirts, and then you can say, oh, I want to watch the show from front of house. And then it's like, you know what? I want to go watch it from the side of the stage, and you can ping to the side of the stage and watch it from there. Like, it's pretty revolutionary, honestly. And we got a lot of cool artists involved that are going to be launching with us on it. It's pretty cool though. Like it's really, really cool.
Ooh, well, you're pushing the industry forward. Like that is
I mean, this world's the pandemic is pushing us into this hybrid experience type of thing where, like every artist can't perform in every country, if that makes sense. you know, just because of their lyrical content, because of maybe their image, maybe, you know, a lot of different things. Like, you know, touring, and I learned that just off of touring with different artists. The respect you get playing with a Wiz Khalifa or Snoop isn't the same respect you'll get if you're playing with a J. Cole. Playing with J. Cole isn't the same respect you'll get if you're playing with John Legend. You know what I'm saying? Like, John is like the most clean cut artist you can get. You know, we're gonna go play at the inauguration. We're gonna go play at a private event for Macy's. We're gonna go to Africa. We're gonna go to China. We're gonna go to Japan. We're gonna go everywhere because he's that type of artist. So I think with the way the world is going, you know, again, you learn how many avenues there are to get financially situated, and you just go after them and figure it out. You know.
I also want to note that this VR setup is going to make music so accessible to people who may not have been able to attend concerts due to a disability, or people who are from around the globe and aren't able to come to places where there are shows.
And that was my point of saying, like, some artists don't even go to certain countries, you know. So you put on a concert, a VR concert experience, and you know you can get 1 million people to tune in if that's the case, you know. Like, look at the fan base of a BTS, look at the fan base of these type of artists. Like, they're just huge, you know. And some of these artists, they'll never travel to America to perform, and some of the American artists will never travel to some of those countries to perform. Because it's really expensive. It's really expensive to travel, honestly. Like, when you're traveling with 20 and 30 people, like, it's
got to eat every day. You got to sleep somewhere.
You know, you're talking 30 hotel rooms, 30 flights, you know, 30 times 3. You're talking 90 meals a day. You know, like, it's just, you start really doing those numbers, like, it's pretty expensive.
So
more efficient.
Talking about touring, you said that you're gearing up to go on a tour soon?
Yeah, I'm kind of gearing up for a few different tours. Like, some of them are opening up, you know, starting on the West Coast for outside shows. Some of them are, you know, pushing back to 2021, 2020, well, we in 2021, 2022. So it's just, you know, sometimes it takes time to prepare for them, you know, figuring out what they're going to look like, what it's going to sound like, you know, how many songs are we going to do? What order are we going to do the songs in? What's the band set up? How many people are we going to have? Do we have dancers? Do we not? Do we have things on stage moving? Do we not? You know, it's a lot put into it. Tours are usually sold out before we even know what songs we're going to perform, and that's just how the world works.
I'm curious if we're going to see the shows we remember pre-COVID, or if there's going to be any changes or differences at
the dates. I think, I'm not confirming or denying, but some dates are shifting. Some productions will be bigger, some productions will be smaller. Some people are taking advantage of the world, quote unquote, opening up, and will do some shows, but are pushing the major tours to next year, just because it takes a lot. You know, you're talking tour buses, you're talking semi trucks, you're talking hotels, you're talking the venues. So now everyone that planned on touring in 2020, they got pushed to 2021. So now these people that are already slated to do 2021, they want to do 2022. So now, because we're still not really open, a lot of things are pushing to 2022. So now, let's say a company owned 200 tour buses. If they think those tour buses are booked for 2021 for these specific artists, and all the artists go to 2022, now you have a shortage of tour buses. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like all of those type of things that you kind of got to think of in advance.
And so this is probably an issue across the board.
Oh yeah, worldwide. It's a worldwide thing. You know, you got to put deposits down on tour buses months, almost a year in advance for your tour sometimes, you know, just because again, if you want good buses, you might want to put a deposit down for them to hold it. Yeah, I know it's a lot.
But I'm just thinking like domino effects. Like, you know, the tour bus is one example of one thing that is going to have to be like sorted out and figured out. And I know, like, talking to music industry professionals throughout this past year, they've all the time been like, do you have ideas? Give us ideas. Like, we are, here in our or stuck in our rooms. Like, we need to get back out there. We need to find solutions. We need to make connections. We need to make sure that everything is getting done in the right way to actually get this to happen. But it's like there are so many hiccups and things that like are almost unpredictable. Like, who would have thought this one element of this that's necessary to make wires is going to have an effect on like hooking up to amps? Like,
prime example on was it Drake? It was a tour recently that one of the semi trucks carrying the most important part of the set design, it was an accident. And the truck didn't make it to the next city, so they had to postpone the show. That's literally one truck out of it. Was like 20 trucks. That one truck had an issue. Like that's just how it goes.
But I feel like the creatives in the music industry are so able to adjust and willing to make the show go on that
sometimes you can't. Sometimes you literally just can't. It's nothing you can do.
And how do you deal with that?
I mean, that's above my pay grade. You leave that to the legalities. You leave that to the lawyers. You leave that to Live Nation. You leave that to them to figure out how they make up the shows. It's like now with COVID hit, all the shows in 2020 got canceled. Who gets their money back? Who doesn't? Did we postpone? Like, what was in the contract? Like, did they give the artist a deposit? Did they not? Like if you do some research, you'll see like Live Nation, they're changing their whole policy on giving artists deposits on shows and different things like that because they lost a ton of money last year. So if you say an artist gets paid $1 million, but we'll take it down. Let's just say an artist makes $200,000 a show, and you gave them $100,000 up front for 20 shows, you're in a hole. You know what I'm saying? Like if those shows don't happen, like you put the money out already. So your fingers crossed, like, all right, maybe the world will open up in 3 months. No. All right, maybe another 3 months. No. All right, next year. Okay. So some of those things you have to kind of like keep rolling over if you have your deposits down. So now you're talking about artists that they were going to book last year for this year. They may not have gotten their deposits yet. So now at that point, they have to restructure the deal with those artists that they were about to do deals with. Because now you have to put COVID compliance fees in there. You have to put, cancellation fees. You have to put all types of things with people wanting getting refunds. And, you might have booked your show and you bought your tickets in August because it's your birthday. Now the concert got pushed to March. You don't have anything to celebrate. Do I really want to go to this show anymore? But the small print might say, no refunds. The ticket's just good for the next show, So all of those type of policies get rewritten and adjusted as the world goes on.
How do you think that's going to affect like smaller artists? Like when we're specifically talking about the deposits and stuff, how do you think it's going to affect them?
I think personally, as an artist, you're going to have some sort of money to get started because, if the trajectory of your budget was, $2 million over the tour, and they gave you a deposit of $500,000 or $1 million or whatever up front, that's your money for your deposits on your bus. That's your, like, some of your most favorite shows, like that you've seen, big shows, they paying upwards of $1 million for a design of the show, for the lighting, for the video. So now you have to have your own money to be able to do these. So now when you go back to Monster Ball and like these crazy Gaga tours and like the Kanye Going in the Dark and like a lot of those bigger shows, a lot of those artists, they put their own money up because they want their production to look a certain way and they know those guarantees won't cover that. So now they come out of pocket and say, I'll put $2 million to make my show crazy. I'll do it because I know I'm going to make my money back after 60 shows or whatever the case may be. So, you just don't want to go in a hole and not get your money. So the smaller artists, it's going to be a bidding war. It's going to be an issue for the smaller, like, the House of Blues tours and like all of those different things. Like it's just going to be different because it's going to be so many people just trying to get out and perform, and they need money. You need startup costs, like Honestly, I challenge you guys to do a case study. Like call a SIR, call a center stage and see how much it costs to rent a room for a day. You know what I'm saying? Like you're talking $1,000 a day with no equipment in the room.
That would be an interesting study.
That
And
sounds
helpful and so
insane.
helpful because so here is it all right if I wrap things up, Nick?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Because I feel like that kind of leads into our final question, which is like advice. Which having something like that, a case study, like going down and estimating cost for an upcoming artist in 2021, I think would be very helpful. So noted. But do you have any advice for young creatives or creatives getting a start?
I would say learn as much as you can, give as much as you can. Sometimes you may not be better than a person at something, but you have a better way of doing it. Never be fearful of growth. Um, Never have a mentor that hasn't done what you want to do. Also, just be a good person. I think when you're a good person and you have good energy, people share things with you that they wouldn't share with other people. Like I've had conversations with some people that I know they wouldn't have told someone else what they told me just because they believe in me and they had that relationship with me. You know, like, go back to when I met Teddy Riley. Someone else said they saw me setting up the stage and me hustling every day. And they said, yo, you got to meet Teddy Riley, yo. He would love you, like your personality, just you and knowing technology and different things. So imagine if I was an ignorant idiot to that person. They would have never thought of me in that way. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just more about, like I said, being a good person, lead with love, never be afraid to give, and just learn and know facts. And I think that's what helped me progress in my career is that I know facts. We have to do it this way because it saves us money. If you look at this piece of paper, this is how much it would cost us, but with my relationship, it's going to cost us this. And the fact that if we do it this way, this works this way and that way, blah, 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 blah. So knowing facts will help you grow and be able to solidify more situations and relationships.
Well,
Noted. Very
nice.
helpful. Also, having a mentor who's done what it is you want to do. Good point. That's a good
A lot of people, they call someone a mentor because they may be older than them or they may have more money than them. But it's like, like if they haven't gone on a world tour, like I already mentor you in world touring. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they can't tell you to set up WhatsApp. They can't tell you to get an international plan on the phone before you leave. Like they haven't ran up $1,000 bill by accident on their cell phone. Like, they don't know.
That's good advice right there. If anybody is going to be traveling abroad and touring abroad, make sure your cell phone plan is up to date.
Yeah, all of those happen. Don't change your email address. Never change your email address. Never change your cell phone number. Never change your information. Because I'll be totally and maintain relationships. Like I literally keep work because sometimes I literally take time once a week to reach out to a group of people I may not have spoken to in a couple of months, literally just to reach out like, hey, hope all is well. It can be production managers, producers, old high school teachers, old people from church, friends, cousins, family, just people I haven't talked to in a while. And literally every time it's someone that's like, yo, I've been thinking about reaching out to you. Can you score this commercial for me real quick? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's like that out of sight, out of mind thing in the industry a lot of times too.
Well, we definitely want to stay connected.
That's done.
Again.
Please, yeah. I mean, I feel like this conversation for me has been really, really informative because I know I didn't really know much about like what kind of happens on the tour side of things. So I enjoy just sitting back and listening and just learning from you. And I really hope that like a lot of the artists that, who watch our show, can learn some of these things too. Because I feel like this is very, very key, just not even just for, navigating music, just for like navigating life and dealing with people and like navigating a network and maintaining a network and making sure that you're really giving back to the people who kind of made you what you are.
The biggest form of currency is relationships.
Yes, hands down. Just dropping all this wisdom.
We'll end it there.
All right. Well, ManMan, again, thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in. If you want to follow the Cultural Reset, definitely follow all of our links in the description below. If you want to follow ManMan, Links are also in the description below.
And as you guys know, we got on this because I respond to any and everyone that hits me up. So anybody got any questions or need any advice, or like we can collaborate on some music, we can do some production, write some songs, like whatever. Like, you know, I'm an open book, man. I just, you know, that's what we're
Open
here.
invitation right there.
Legacy.
Legacy. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a good one.